Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.
What's up, everybody? I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
And this is the Magic Mike Show, episode 420. Mr. Somich, we're not prepared. We're too sober.
Gummy huzzah!
That's okay. You know what? After
you probably haven't taken one of those recently.
Our first show back after Keeneland and after the Breeders' Cup, and I'm still I'm avoiding anything that might affect my body at all in a less than positive way. I'm still flushing out the demons. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm surprised we didn't have Slim on as a special guest. It would have seemed fitting.
That's true. Dr. Ting already wins the comment of the day, but pass the football to Magic so we can chest bump it again.
That was a mess, man. That was one weekend, one hell of a weekend there. I got made fun of over on Blinkers Off. Did you see that?
Listen,
partying.
From what I remember of it, your partying was but I also wasn't the one who got ramen thrown on them at the end of the night. So that's
true. You did sleep without any pillows, however.
Listen, hey, if you want to find out about that, subscribe to the premium show. We'll tell you about that on our OnlyFans page. Gotta have a membership for it, though. Don't forget that. Mike, we are talking about Del Mar's late pick 5 on Saturday. Del Mar's back tomorrow, Friday, November 11th. If you're listening or watching on Thursday, thanks for joining us. But John Lees is going to be on the mic this weekend, so I'm excited about that. And then Larry Colmus takes over for the rest of the meet. But what's so awesome about the Del Mar Fall meet, they focus specifically on their turf racing, which means the fields are always competitive and deep. You're going to get a lot of great trainers shipping in. We've got Grand Motion here this weekend with a couple of really live ones in some stakes races. So, look at Saturday, for example. We got 9 races on the card, and 5 of them are on the turf. It's awesome. Over half of it's on grass.
Yeah, it's a really good card. Crazy to see Flavian Pratt back here. I expected him down in Florida, but it doesn't want the competition down there. So going to try and come in and take over Hector Barrios's circuit. We'll see what happens there. It's tough not to use him when you're playing these races, though, just because you saw the dominance when he came back for a couple weekends. He just beat these guys up. So be interesting to see how much he gets bet in this spot, the horses that he gets, and what he does here back on the West Coast. But it's going to be a fun meet. I mean, you have the Gulfstream Champion meet, which I love. You've got this fall Del Mar meet, which is going on. Aqueduct starts to fizzle out here in a couple weeks, and so that racing gets lower and lower. So you start moving away from the New York circuit. It's going to be a fun couple weeks, though, leading up to kind of, I guess, prep season. We're almost already back into prep season, which in and itself is absolutely crazy. We're a month away from the fantasy draft, which we're just going to dominate again.
Oh yeah, we'll talk about that one later too. But like Michael says, that Johnny Velasquez is going to be here for the fall and winter. Pratt's going to be here with him as well. Hector Barrios, is he going back to Florida? I meant to check on that to see if he was going back to Gulfstream or not.
We'll see. I haven't heard anything about the Champions meet. I know that he's here. He's at Del Mar at least through this weekend. I believe next weekend as well. As I've seen some interest of him on Mount. So I think we got him for at least 2 weeks, but I'm not sure where he's going to end up. If I'm him, I'm staying in California because he's starting to earn mounts from top trainers out there and get really good horses, where he's kind of considered a second-tier guy down in Florida just because you have the Ortiz brothers and you've got even Paco, who gets some really good mounts down there. I mean, so you've got Hector in a spot where I think he's probably getting the 3rd or 4th best mounts at Del Mar. I would stay that over going down to back to Gulfstream.
Yeah, that's a great point. So he's at Del Mar Friday, goes to Gulfstream Saturday for 2 races, and then he's back here on Sunday. So it looks like he'll probably devote most of his time to California. But if you remember the trainer Amador Sanchez, who was giving him a lot of great mounts, right, including with Super Ocho in the Breeders' Cup, Sanchez, I think, is going to be back at Gulfstream. That's usually where he's based at for the most part. So watch to see where he goes back. And if he's going to be based in California, when he does go to Gulfstream, maybe take a look at Gulfstream if you want to make some bets, because it's probably going to be a live horse over there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's a great point. If he's traveling across the country, then watch out. And yeah, we got Mr. Jumps Off the Horse himself, Frankie Dettori, coming in town, and be interesting to see how he does on the dirt. I mean, what do you think his win percentage on the Santa Anita dirt is going to be?
I'm going to give him 4%, and that's generous because I think Baffert's going to throw him a bone or two.
Wow. Florent Giroux, like Victor Espinoza type love from you.
Whoa. I put Victor above Flower at this point. That's pretty bad. But yeah, Frankie Dettori starting Malibu Day will be at in California. So it's crazy. Anyways, Mike, we got Del Mar to talk about. Late pick 5. Let's get into it, buddy. Riders up. This is the kind of sequence that Mike Somich just despises. It's a 9-race card, which means the race 5 is the single most important race anywhere. If you want to hit the early pick 5 or the late pick 5, you got to get this race right. And it's going to kick us off, and it's kind of a doozy. We've got 8 3-year-old fillies here you see on the screen. They're going 1.8 miles on the turf, so a trickier distance. Phil D'Amato's got 2 win here. Where are you going on top?
Yeah, this is the toughest race in sequence for me. I mean, I could make a case for 6 of these 8 horses if I really wanted to. I mean, it's just a brutal one. There's not much speed in here, which makes it even tougher to handicap. You've got horses like the 5 Ballet Dancing, who's your favorite for Simon Callahan, whose best numbers come against much better horses. And so you kind of wonder if they're valid because none of them are in wins. And so you really are trying to parse through a bunch of data here. And none of it really makes you feel warm and cozy when you go to bed at night with your pick 5 ticket. So I'm going to go with the 2-horse, Belle Cherie. That's what we're going with. On top, Flavien Prat, Simon Callahan. He has the favorite. He's also got Prat on the lone speed. So I'm going to lean toward Belle Cherie being able to take this field gate to wire, because I think Prat takes this horse out, and it's going to be tough to catch if she's able to kind of relax out there.
And Manu approves of your pronunciation. Very well done there. I use this horse initially. Actually, she was my top pick because of Prat on the top lone speed. You and I were talking about it off air, but Prat, when he came back to Del Mar for 2 weekends in the summer, won 10 of 30 mounts, and he hit the board in 18 of 30. So, and a lot of times he's riding for D'Amato. I'm with you that this looks like she could be potentially a lone speed. I am a little worried that about the 6, though. School Dance. Phil D'Amato's got 2 in here. I used them as well as the 2. This horse, that she was privately purchased after that Gulfstream win, and they sent her to Phil D'Amato, and he does this a lot. We know with the Little Red Feather guys, he does this a lot too. Won her West Coast debut. It was against Lesser, but if you watch that, there were older horses in there, and she demolished them. You're getting a wedding funeral a little bit here with the price, but in 6 races routing, she's got 2 wins in 3 seconds. The only time that she was off the board, she missed second by 1 length. So I think she's got the talent, and the breeding says Mile and Nate should be right what she wants to do.
Yeah, I went back and forth on the 6. Ended up being the last horse off the ticket for me. I did use the 8, 16 Acres, the other D'Amato in here for Hernandez. I like that last race specifically, being able to kind of wheel around the pack and be able to just get up for a second. Just missed Koljaro Kura, the 7 horse, just missed the 8 horse, 16 Arches in this spot. But I expect that we're going to see a little bit more of an improvement here. I think that you're going to have the tendency to be able to sit close, and I'm hoping that we can make a trip from that post. The 8 of 8 post is kind of a struggle here going 1.8 miles because you come down that chute, and so you got to try and not stay wide on that first chute turn, and then you have that first real turn that you're trying to not lose any ground on as well. That's my biggest concern there with the 8. But I ended up going 3 deep here. I went with Belle Cherie, the 2 horse. I did use the 5 Ballet Dancing because I went back and forth on this one, and just facing much better. I mean, that's the plain and simple of it. If you look who was on here, she wasn't able to win, but she was running behind Spinderella, Bella Bell, Cairo Membries. And if you go back and you watch that race, she broke out of the 11 out of the 13 horses. So breaking from the 11 post, she got a terrible trip into that first kind of angular turn, ended up 5 wide around the second turn. Was it still trying to close and just wasn't able to get it going? We're going back to Lasix here, getting a nice little layoff before that. And the race before that, I think, does win this race. And so that race 2 back over this surface at this distance is good enough to beat this field if we can recreate it. So I've used the 5 as well. I like the speed advantage of the 2. I like the overall class of the 5. And from a horse that could take a step forward, I think that's the 8. And that's why I ended up 3 deep with those.
I'm going to agree with you on the 8, 16 Arches. There was a cool article about, Phil D'Amato won the training title. He tied with Bob Baffert actually for the summer meet training title. But of every one of his stakes winners, they're all Irish breds. I thought that was an interesting note, that as good as he is on turf, his Irish breds are the best, and that's what 16 Arches is here. I don't know what that really means, but I also do love that Juan Hernandez is going to be picking up the mount. So to me, a major jockey improvement. Ballet Dancing I left off. I am a little chalky on this ticket, and my ticket's more expensive than yours, so this was the one I was leaving off. I'm worried that she's going to be compromised by a lack of pace in here. There's only 8 horses, and she's had plenty of issues getting out of the block or breaking, properly. She is great to replace at the distance. Those breaks need to stop being so shitty for me to trust her at such a short price against this kind of a field.
Yeah, I felt the exact same way you did. And it just came down to the post position in the last 2 for me, where I'm really willing to give her a pass. 11 of 13, 12 of 12. Those are awful posts going 1.8 miles over this distance, especially against the level of competition she was facing. So I'm going to give her a pass on those breaks. And if she breaks poorly here, she's going to save a ton of ground. And I've got the horse that's going to be in the lead. So I at least have myself covered from a speed perspective if she does break poorly. But just one of those that I thought had too much on here, too much talent not to use. Now, it's funny, Michael mentioning the 4-horse as well. I'm not going to even try and pronounce that name. Mentions the 4 as well. That was one of the another one that I considered putting on here. I mentioned I literally considered 6 of these 8 horses. The 4 I looked at for a long time. Did you take a look at the 4 at all?
Not really, other than trying to figure out how to pronounce her name. No, an interesting one. I don't like that. To me, this is too hard of a field to be facing winners for the first time. You had 2 good efforts, and clearly the horse like Del Mar with that mile effort 2 back. But I think that you're going to need to see too much improvement from her with the barn and Paddy Gallagher that isn't known for making big strides. Like, he's a progressive type of trainer. He's not going to just suddenly shoot this one way up.
Yeah, that was kind of why I ended up passing. You also have Rispoli, who jumped off to go to the 5-horse. Other one I considered here, we haven't talked about, the 1-horse, all the way on the rail. Glenall, Papa Padromo taking this horse. Took this horse to Kentucky Downs, raced in a stakes race, is way over its head. But the race 2 back, Rhea Moon, if you go back, beat Ballet Dancing beat by just a length and a half the race prior to that. In that race, you saw Glenn Hall got a terrible trip. I wouldn't be shocked if the 1-horse can pull an upset here. Do you consider Glenn Hall at all?
I did. A big angle being Joe Bravo. He rides the turf course, especially Del Mar, over the summer as well as anybody does. And Papa Prodromo was a big surprise because he got a lot of the Baltus horses when Baltus was kicked out. So I considered him again. It's just a case of I liked others better in here. But if any horse that I didn't use between the 2, 6, and 8 win, it doesn't surprise me if the 1 is there because it's got the talent.
Yeah, I have a single in the 8th. I think you could single the 7th if you want to be aggressive. And if you do that, I don't mind smashing the all button here to kick this thing off.
Yeah. Yes. I didn't briefly think, could I try and do that here? I didn't have the balls to single, but that's a great point. Let's move on. Second leg of the late pick 5 at Del Mar on Saturday, November 12th. Race 6, a little different of a field here, Mike. 10 maiden 2-year-old boys in for 50K tags with weight allowances down to 40. It's a class level, going a mile on the dirt. There's going to be Stumble Bunny City in the home stretch here. Over under time set at a minute 44.5 for this race. These are some slow little boys, I think. Where are you going on top?
I was going to go a minute 39 and 3, but I'll take the under on 44.5. Look, I went to the 3-horse here, Loco Luna on top, 5-1. Doug O'Neill, Hernandez, like the connections, but to me that last race is good. Like, that was Classical Cat, Hijazi, Eastbound. This horse was chasing that pace. They went 21 and 3. 45 and 2 to the half, and this horse was 3 lengths behind that. That's way faster than anyone else in this field can go. I think the 3 is able to break to get to the lead. And you mentioned how stumbly they're going to be. I want the horse in the front if they're going to all be stumbling, because it's a lot easier to stumble home than it is to stumble past a bunch of people when you're getting home. So give me the 3, Loco Luna, who I think is coming out of the best race here while dropping down to maiden claimers.
I didn't use that horse, but my God, Mike, I feel like you could make a case for and against every single one of these. And so I'm not going to poo-poo you for the 3. It's also worth noting, by the way, Tyler Gaffleone, when he was in town, was aboard that horse for Doug O'Neill on debut. My top pick, I'm going with a 5 Ice Storm, 4-1 price here. That race 2 back at Los Al, the maiden 50 level. Tiago Pereira was aboard. Pereira's back aboard here. We're back on the dirt. It was a good effort. It was a 5-horse field, so it wasn't that big, but it was going 2 turns. So the horse has that experience, was forwardly placed the entire way, and didn't quit in the stretch when it started to wilt. Now you see the final time, they went extremely slow there in the stretch, Los Al, with that very long stretch there. But to me, that horse just showed that he can just keep going. And also, Frosted is a 5% turf route sire. Why the hell are you putting this horse on the turf when he's 15% dirt routing and 17% with 2-year-olds? So I like the 5 on top. Did you use the 5?
I did not. That Los Al race to me is a turf race. Again, I've talked about it a bunch on here. The Los Al favors turf horses over dirt horses. A lot of times Los Al and then go into the turf. I can't look at that race and be like, okay, I'm really confident here. You also got a claim out of that race, and I realized that, like, the Aaron Hardy barn is not the best barn in the world, but I would consider it a flat lateral move, if not a downgrade, going into the Alfredo Marquez barn. And so if I'm looking at it in that manner, and this horse needs to somehow improve, and they moved it up, now we're moving it back down. Not a great sign there. Now we're trying dirt. Not a great sign. Although I do agree with your angle. I do like specifically when certain sires, Blame comes to mind. Frosted, obviously one of those horses that have, like, people think may be good turf sires but aren't. And then they go back onto dirt, or the race gets rained off the turf. Those are times I do like to use the horse. Wouldn't be shocked if Ice Storm runs a decent race. I just don't like that 4-1 price for a horse I think needs to improve.
What about for a price horse? I actually went on the rail. Did you look at this horse for Peter Miller, Argentina Cries? It's an Irish bred, so you can see why they put the horse on turf the first two starts. And I actually like that first race against maiden special weight, that big purse there at Del Mar. Horse was forwardly placed. It was, completely quit and fell apart once he got headed. But I like the fact that the horse was forwardly placed, showed an interest in being forward. And now we're on the rail with a Bug Boy getting a 7-pound weight allowance. This feels like Miller's just going to try and steal one a little bit here in the spot.
You are dead on. I think this is a horse that tries to go gate to wire. I was back and forth on this one. I may actually go 5 deep here and include the one on the ticket, because so a lot of times I'm more critical of the Bug, especially when you have top jockeys, quote unquote top jockeys, riding the previous 2 races, and then you take this drop off when you have jockeys that could ride that Miller could call and say, "Hey, I want you on this horse." But I think he hit the nail on the head there. The 7-pound weight allowance is why he went with this specific jockey. And Miller's been successful. They've run 12 times together. They've got 3 wins in those 12 starts. So I don't hate the use here. I think this horse is one that's likely to get the lead. I'm kind of back and forth. I'm at $48 right now. I may go to 60 by the end of the show and add Argentina Cries here, because this was one that I was not so sure about. Horse I really liked quite a bit was on the outside here, the 10 horse, Rain on Me. This one's dropping out of a maiden special weight level. We're gelding 21% trainer, who's really focused here. Only 19 starters in 2022. Son of Danza, who sold for quite a bit more than the original asking price, 10x. I thought ran in a pretty good race, didn't have a good trip. Now we're dropping down. We're switching over to dirt. But I feel like there's a little bit more early speed than we necessarily saw, just because of how the horse got out of the gate. So I don't want to completely throw that out. Don't love the 10 post, but I do think there's quite a bit of talent here for the 10 horse.
Well, and you've got a great jockey in Ramon Vasquez, too. When Vasquez came to California, I was curious to see how he's going to ride, because he was doing great on like the Midwestern and Southwestern tracks and the lower levels, but he has been fantastic here. I did look at this horse, didn't end up using, but again, this is not a race where you can get, I don't know, if you've got strong opinions to try and single here, God bless you. I went with the 8 Rich Gold for my final one. There's 2 Millers in here. I used the one. This one's 3-1. I kept trying not to use this, but you're getting a big class drop. It's a first-time gelding angle, major jockey upgrade to Flavien Prat. Like, he doesn't need to be in this race. Like, it's a 50K maiden. Like, he's not finding a Derby horse here. The Wizard of Bonsai, Peter Miller, like, he's going to be able to get this horse potentially to step up, but this horse has no early speed. Like, I feel like you and I, like me on your back, is faster out of the gate than this horse.
I'm wondering if that's why we gelded this one. If it's just a lack of focus, because completely missed the break in all 3 starts. I'm wondering if it's okay. We need to geld this horse. We need to focus. It's a Bolt d'Oro. Bolt d'Oro has been a very good win early sire as well. So you've seen other progeny do well early, and now you're gelding the horse this early. You paid $110,000 for, dropping into maiden claimer. It's not something that Slam Dunk does often as a ownership group. But when they do this kind of thing, they are trying to win the race. They expect they're putting the horse in a spot where it can win. And if they lose it, they lose it. That's fine, with the upside of being able to get into those starter allowances, because you now are able to qualify for them. So I use the 8 as well. I think it makes a ton of sense. A little concerned as you are about those breaks, but I'm thinking that the gelding,
maybe it makes him a little more aerodynamic.
Whoop. I also use the 9 post facto here. Look, if I have the 3 as my top pick and Loco Luna at the Doug O'Neill, I'm going to use the other Doug O'Neill in this spot. It just kind of made sense to me. Coming in from the Sisterson barn, Mineshaft, very good dirt sire, also pretty good on the turf. So I'm not too worried about switching from turf to dirt here. Was in the Sisterson barn, a barn that I like, but this isn't the type of horse that you generally see him pop off with. Now we're going on the Doug O'Neill barn, probably going to put a little more speed into the horse, drop down into a lower level. I think the 9 makes sense here, and I am going to add the 1. So I'm going to go 1, 3, 8, 9, 10 in this spot. My single later allows me to spread a little bit more.
So you and I are split. We're using the 2 kings of the Del Mar claiming game. I'm using both Peter Millers, and you're going with the 2 Doug O'Neills. Listen, Abel Cedillo, he is Doug O'Neill's go-to guy at this level. Like, he doesn't get the best horses anymore. His time for that in California is come and gone, but these are the races where Abel Cedillo is fine, because he's not a terrible rider. He can get a dirt claimer home, no problem. So I don't hate the use. I went with the 2 Millers and you went with the 2 O'Neills. It's kind of funny that way.
I'm using the 2 Millers as well. I'm covering.
Oh, you
all
are?
That's
okay.
Yeah. So I'm using all of them. Then I'm throwing that 10 horse in, because I think we got a little bit of talent out there.
Let's move on. Third leg of the late pick 5 at Del Mar on Saturday, November 12th, race 7, the feature event, the Kathryn Crosby Stakes. 8 fillies and mares going a mile on the turf. restricted, lots of restrictions. You can go ahead and read those yourself. But I love that our first show back from Keeneland, Mike, we're talking about a horse named Burgoo Alley. We finally got to try, or at least I finally got to try Burgoo over the weekend. She's the number 5 in here for Phil D'Amato, and Flavien Prat is aboard. It's Lone Speed. It's got to be top pick, right?
Well, no, I actually am not going to use the 5 on top. Burgoo is basically chunky beef stew, right? Can we agree on that?
Yeah, it's really good. I think it's like good pot roast in there. It's not just like chunks of like cheap beef. It was good beef.
Yeah. What were we comparing it to?
I think you were comparing to like Hormel chili out of the can or something. You were not very nice about it.
Chunky's Campbell soup.
That's what it was.
The NFL coaches all go on there. Get some hearty Chunky's Campbell soup. That's what beef Burgoo reminded me of. Now, that being said, we also had it in like this big vat in a big room. So I'm sure that there are better qualities out there, but I would go with the bread pudding over the Burgoo at Keeneland. The bread pudding was phenomenal.
Yeah. I just want to stick your face in it. Anyways, we'll cut it short. You and I are both going to go 4 or 5 here. I'll let you talk about bipartisanship shipping in for Graham Motion. I didn't mean to do that.
Yeah, this is the one I almost singled. I almost singled bipartisanship, not Burgoo Alley. Look, I love these horses coming east to west. That race at Keeneland was a tough race. 2-back facing in Italian, Wakanaka, Navratilova, Regal Glory, 3-back, Plum Ali, 5-back. In between those, 1-2 races, including $100,000 stakes at Gulfstream. This horse just has more class. I'm completely willing to excuse that last race. Was off for almost 6 months, comes back, runs at Keeneland in a tough N2X allowance. I mean, those are tough races. Was the favorite in that spot. Now we're shipping in here to face what I consider a lot softer, right? I mean, this is just a lot weaker field than what we've been facing. I realize that Burgoo Alley is going to be able to get the lead, but Burgoo Alley doesn't always keep the lead, and that's one of the bigger problems with this horse. So I think bipartisanship is going to be able to be relatively in range. I'm talking like 4 or 5 lengths back, and has the better kick turning for home and has the better class than Burgoo Alley as well. So I almost singled the 4 here. If you want to slam the all button in the first race, single the 4 here. I wouldn't talk you out of it. I did end up going 4-5 just because you do have Lone Speed, D'Amato, Prat on turf at Del Mar. That's a pretty tough trio to try and beat.
Listen, you made all great points on bipartisanship, and also a good little note on Burgoo Alley. She doesn't always finish when she has the lead. In fact, the last 4 turf races that she's been in, she coughed up. If she had the leader, was forwardly placed. She just completely coughed it up. However, I will, in her defense, her last 3 starts, she basically served as a rabbit for Going Global, who's another Phil D'Amato horse. So she wasn't really intending to win those grade 2 races. She was setting up for Going Global, and it worked. She won 2 of those 3. You do wonder, though, like, does that start to screw with the horse's psychology a little bit? They're just sent to go, and then we quit, and that's totally fine. Do it again next time, too. So maybe Pratt fixes it. I don't know.
It's interesting because her best race was probably the Autumn Miss, where she came from off the pace. And so it kind of makes you wonder if she even wants to be out front there, because she's given it up, faced a lot better than this, but given it up the last few times when she's gone out there and done it. And you have that race that's sitting back there in the PPs with off the pace a turn of foot that actually is like, hey, that would win this. Like, can we run back to that one? And I don't know if we can, and we haven't seen it recently. I'll take the east to west over the horse that has to show me some new dimension.
One thing that I don't understand, why is Mike Smith riding the 7 horse in here? I can't figure this one out. Like, there's no connection
the 6
at
horse.
all. 6 horse. I'm sorry. Race 7. It's the 6 horse. Yes. I don't know why is he on this horse?
Why is the 6 in this race? This seems like one of those wild Doug O'Neill placements. It's like, I'm gonna take this football and I'm gonna throw it at the wall over here, and whatever race it hits, I'm entering that horse. You feel like you see that sometimes these stakes races with O'Neill. It's like, what? Like, how did this horse end up here?
Well, I mean, I know that Phenom, the horse that Izzy M beat last out, came back with an 80 buyer, but I mean, we're talking like that's 7 points better than what Izzy M got in the race when she won. So I don't know. I didn't know if maybe anybody in the chat had an idea why Mike's, because it's not a barn he ever rides for much, and it's not, didn't make sense. Anyways, not important. Let's move on. Penultimate leg of the late pick 5 at Del Mar on Saturday, November 12th. Race 8, we're back on the dirt one more time. 11 Cal-bred fillies and mares sprinting 6.5 furlongs. It's an N1X allowance. You see that there are 2 of them in here for the 20K tag. Where are you going on top?
All right, we're singling this one up. This is where we're going to go with the single. I'm going to go with the 9 horse Tiger Spice. So I think it's going to be able to take this field gate to wire. We're switching barns, which is the one concern here. We're going from Mathis to Blacker, and Blacker first time out's 9%. But when you look at the workouts Nothing has fallen off with this horse. There's absolutely no difference in the workouts from one barn to the other. The horse seems like it's ultra talented, 2 for 2 lifetime. Was able to come from a little bit off the pace, going 5.5, then take a field gate to wire, going 6.5. We're going 6.5 again today, and there just isn't that much speed in this race. Like normally when you're going 6.5, you're like, oh shit, there's gonna be like 4 horses to go, and then all of them are gonna quit because that last half furlong is really gonna get them. Well, guess what? This horse went 21 and 4:45 last time, going 6.5. We aren't going to have to go 46 this time, going 6.5. And so I feel like it's just a softer spot for a horse that seems to be ready to run into it. Switching barns, but the workouts are good. Got a nice freshening. You could even make an argument here that as a 4-year-old late in the season, third start, you could see a nice level of improvement. And if we see any improvement, this horse towers over the field. I'll take the 3-1 price on Tiger Spice.
She's my top pick as well. I didn't have the balls to single like you did, but one thing too, she's not a need the lead type. She can go fast if she needs to, going 6.5. But at her debut, if going 5.5, she wasn't on the lead. She was sat off a little bit, and I like to see that because she's one of 5 horses in here with at least a 98 time form early pace rating. She has the co-highest at 105. But what that tells me is if there is a pace duel that it ends up engaging here between some of these horses, she can sit back a little bit, and Ricky Gonzalez is the only jockey that's ridden her, so he knows how to do that. But if, let's say, that nobody wants to go for it, all right, fine, I'll take it. And Ricky Gonzalez is as good on the front end as anybody in California. I ended up going 3 deep here. I'll use the 8 Vela just to her inside as well. Jonathan Wong had this horse in the summertime, got her to a win, going 5.5 at Los Al. The 3 races that he did have her dirt sprinting, she hit the board. She was always competitive. She completely missed the break in the race. He ends up losing her for 20K tag, but she still finished very strong. And then he immediately claims her right back for 20 out of her last race. Now, he brings her right back at the same price tag, doesn't run her back protected, but it's just crazy that this late in her 6-year-old season, Jonathan Wong is just pulling like this career best efforts out of this horse that was 2 for 19, 18 when he took over. So I'm going to use her. Did you consider the 8 at least underneath?
No, I didn't. One of the reasons I singled the 9 is I don't really like anyone else in this race. It was hard for me to really be like, hey, really love this horse too, or this horse I can make a good case for. And to me, the 8 underneath, I could see it. That makes sense to me underneath. Would kind of need to run a career best effort. Not sure 6.5 furlongs is her best distance. And that makes me a little concerned coming wheeling right back. That race 2 back at Del Mar you mentioned, I'm worried it's a little inflated because everyone kind of stopped in that race, and missing the break may have helped the end buyer because she had she went slower early than she ever had before and was able to just kind of roll up. So I'm concerned that the setup makes that race look better than it actually was on paper. I love the Wong reclaim angle. I wish this horse was protected. That would be the one, to say right away, hey, I'm willing to lose it again for 20. I mean, this horse has been claimed 3 times in a row for 20. You have to expect you are losing this horse in this spot. Don't love trying the new distance when you know you're losing the horse.
That makes sense here. I hadn't quite thought of it. She did try 7 furlongs once very early in her career and was second, but she really has been mostly a 6, 5.5 furlong sprinter. Last one for me, I can't quit this horse, the 6. She's Bulletproof. And a big reason is because she's a full younger sister to Bulletproof 1, who's one of my favorite horses. By the way, proof that genetics in horse racing is a crapshoot. Bulletproof 1, out of the gate, gone. This horse, gates open, I'm going to hang out here in the back and close. It's crazy how they can be completely different there. But you're getting Pratt back aboard. Last time out was forced to go 6 wide off the turn. Still almost caught Vegan for second. Vegan's in this race. Vegan had a dream trip, got a dream opening up the rail, and just went, no, I'm good. I don't want to go and try and win this race. So, but I thought that She's Bulletproof had a much worse trip, ran a much better race, and now we're getting back to Pratt. She's had problems breaking from the gate. She stumbles, but I don't know. It's Pratt. It's Miller. This feels like a horse that if there is a pace duel that does collapse, she's going to be flying late. I just don't know. She'd be too far away. We'll find out.
My third pick in this race, so I don't hate it. Like and one of the reasons I singled is because my second pick is the 1. So I'm 3-1 over 4-1 over 4-1 in a tough race. Like if I'm that close where I'm not going to get a big price and I'm going 3 deep, just, give me the single and let's see if I can get my top pick home. I agree with everything you said. She's Bulletproof, doesn't like the winner's circle. That's my biggest concern with her. Loves to run second, doesn't really love to pass that last horse, which is odd because a lot of times when you have horses that pass, they do like to win because they're passing horses. This one's like, I'm going to see that tail in front of me. If only one, I'm going to stop. And that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for the no tails in front of you. So my main concern was She's Bulletproof, although I do like Pratt picking her up. The one horse I think is a little interesting for Carla Gaines. This is going to be third off the layoff, third time in her barn. Both 2 times produced an 85 and 83 buyer, career best for both of those are top 2 career buyers. Now we're switching back over to dirt. And not really a ton that this horse has done on dirt, but the last 2 works are both sub-minute, 59-1, 59-2. The work 3 back was 47-2, all good works. And this is a move where you don't want to go to N2X on the turf, so you stay in N1X on the dirt, and you're hoping the horse is good enough. If we can get to those dirt numbers with this new barn, the one completely fits here. I'm not willing to bet it at 4-1 to find out, but the one definitely makes sense here if we can split it over to the dirt.
That's the thing. And my concern with this horse is that I think you talked about how that extra half furlong is going to hit a lot of horses. I think this horse is going to be one of those, because if you see what happened in that race, going 6.5 at Del Mar on the dirt last fall, same thing. Horse was running well, forwardly placed, like the turf races. That last half furlong hit and just couldn't keep up with the top 2 horses. I think we're going to see that again. 6.5 on turf is a lot easier to kind of maintain than 6.5 on the dirt. But, and again, you're not using the horse, but you brought up a great point that at 4-1, I don't want to find out.
Especially going down the hill. That 6.5 was going down the hill, which makes it a lot easier too. With Santa Anita plays a lot more like 5.5 or 6. It's just that the barn change is what makes me pause, because these 2 efforts are significantly better on the turf, and it's the first and second out as a 4-year-old after a year layoff. Like you could legitimately see a lot of improvement off that dirt race, and that's why you're seeing this 4-1 number in a weak field.
Last one on for me, the 11-27 Trouts is 6-1. That was a good enough price for me to use the horse. We're getting JJ Hernandez to stay aboard, the meets leading rider over the summer. He wins 24% from Mike Pikeby. Is simply because this horse is getting back to what she's best at, in my opinion, which is dirt sprinting. And for the first time in her career, she's going to be third off the layoff, and she's a 5-year-old. She's only made 4 career starts, lots of issues staying healthy, but they finally got her healthy. And you saw that those 2 dirt efforts, both of them fit. And then I like the progression there. It seems like she fits. Maybe the post is a big concern, but other than that, a post, and she's a speed demon. So we'll see what happens from a pace perspective, but I'm trusting Juan Hernandez aboard her.
Yeah, won't be able to make the lead from there. So it's going to have to be able to rate and win. I usually only bet horses if it's 30 Trouts. So about 3 Trouts short for me to be interested in here. Now, I actually did consider this horse. I have this horse in 4th because I agree with you. Third off the layoff. This is a horse that should improve. The lack of being able to make the lead concerns me. And the fact that they even at 6.5, where we're winning going 22 and change, 46 and change. And I if we go 46 and change, the 9's going to be in the lead and kill gate to wire. So it's one of those where if the 11 can show a new dimension, I'd be a lot more interested. But the lack of that dimension is the biggest issue for me.
Yeah, I was on the fence. That horse was the last one on for me. I'll take her back off. You're right. There really is no, I was trying to use the 5 furlong, just so people know that 5 furlong turf sprint at Del Mar. She did sit off and pass horses, and then just, she got really screwy in the stretch and couldn't hold on. But it does look like her best chances will be going gate to wire, and it's not going to happen here. So I'll take her off. Thank you for that. Well, it made my ticket a little cheaper. Let's move on. 5th and final leg of the late pick 5 at Del Mar, Saturday, November 12th, race 9. Whoops, missed it there. It's a mile-long turf route for a dozen maiden 2-year-old boys. I almost singled here. Where are you going on top?
I went with the 6-horse Secret Treasure on top. Mike McCarthy barn. We're going to try turf for the first time for Airgate, who's been a fairly good turf sire. Again, coming out of what I thought was a very good race, ended up with Florent Giroux. Carmel Road wins that race. Hard to figure, runs 3rd. Trip notes are troubled trip. Every bit of that. If you go back and you watch the replay, this horse got bounced around good. I love McCarthy. I think he's one of those underrated trainers. He's got a plus ROI, $2.02 coming off this type of layoff. You feel like this horse had a lot more to show, and that was more of a let's just kind of make this a learning experience for Secret Treasure versus really trying to go out and win first time out. I think they were pointing toward the turf the whole time. I think you're going to see a very different animal here take the gate. I like the 6-1 price. So give me the 6 Secret Treasure on top.
The 6 is the reason I didn't single. Michael McCarthy maiden's second start. Woo, look out, especially when he does one thing with them and then they switch. To me, this horse, that debut, the fact that he wanted to put this horse 2 turns really caught my attention. Forget that it was on dirt or turf. I think he really just wanted to get this horse a start going 2 turns, and that was the option. You nailed it. Trouble trip is literally every step. But if you go watch that race replay, not only should you watch it to see the trip this horse had, watch this horse every step of the way. It is a perfect epitome of how Florent Giroux rode all summer long, which is terribly. The horse threw his head at the start, last of 10 away, naturally improved himself up the backside, looking good, makes a move in the far turn, and Florent goes, hey, there's a horse slowing down on the rail, and goes straight up the horse's ass with him, and suddenly it didn't work out. So Johnny V is not Florent Drew. He's going to pick up the mount here. He hasn't won that often from McCarthy, but he has ridden a lot from McCarthy, and it's not necessarily California. It can be sometimes elsewhere, such as Keeneland. So I'm going to trust this duo. The dam was grade 2, placed twice on synthetic. She's a 6.5, 7 furlong specialist, but I think that the distance is going to be no problem here for this horse. The reason that was the reason I didn't single the number 1 horse. And don't get on me about Wedding Funeral. That race, betting wise, was screwy as hell. The horse that won was 10-1. People had no idea who was going to win that race. The horse looked extremely good on debut. Comes from off the pace. Note that the top 2 horses, he and Zebul, the winner, they were over 2 lengths ahead of third, and then third place was over 3 lengths ahead of fourth place. So, for a 10-horse field sprinting at Santa Anita, that is a lot of distance for them to be spread out there. The sprint sire part, Ransom the Moon, it does give him that early positioning. He's got the rail and, going 2 turns. I think that's going to be very important. And the dam was a stone cold router who was 0 for 7 sprinting. So the fact that he did that well sprinting tells me that, 2 turns is going to be really good there. And go ahead and lay on me the Wedding Funeral.
No, I won't, because we're changing a lot.
Okay.
Here. The Wedding Funeral to me applies much more if you win, right? Here I realize we're 22-1, but that was first time out for a trainer, and it was also a turf sprint. And we were in the 10 post. Like, there's a bunch of things that were against the 1 horse in that race who still ran very well. So in that spot, I'm not going to rail on you for it, because I don't think I don't think the race was misbet in that sense. I think it's just a really tough spot from a debuting perspective. And now we draw the rail, going a mile on the turf, where you're clearly the fastest horse early. I think if the 1 wants the lead, the 1 gets the lead. So I use the 1 as well here. I'm not going to rail on you for it, because then I'd be railing on myself too. Don't love the 5-2 price, but do want the horse who I think is going to go from the rail and I think gets the lead. So especially when, again, I mentioned the 10 post last time was brutal for this horse. I mean, all the way on the outside, got to the lead, then just kind of faded down the lane. I'm not going to blame that one for anything. And I don't mind that we're going from 22-1 down to 5-2, simply because there's enough things changing. I think this was probably the plan all the time, to go 2 turns, not to sprint. I think D'Amato was probably surprised that horse ran as well as it did first time out. So I'm not shocked we're getting 5-2 here. The other horse I used Polyak here, the 8 horse, the other D'Amato. Look, time form numbers aren't wonderful. The circuits, not wonderful. But it's D'Amato, first time in North America, 26% with Flavien Prat aboard. They click off at 29%. This would be a dumb one to leave off if I get here and my ticket's only $60.
I just can't. I can't do it, Mike. This horse is just bad. This horse was bad overseas. It hit the board once in 6 starts. And then I'm talking before the show started. It's D'Amato, first time North America with Pratt, but that's as far as I can go. That's it for me. It ends kind of at that spot.
Yeah, I get it. But like I said, this one I think just makes a lot of sense. I like the D'Amato Pratt part of it is what I'm going to lean on here from a why I like this horse perspective. If you've got ransomware in here from D'Amato's perspective, why are you putting this one in 2 unless you think it's got a legitimate shot? I mean, you have the favorite and the second choice from the same barn. So those are 3 of the 4 I'm going to use. I use the 3 Stonks as well. Did you watch the debut from Stonks at all?
I didn't know. I'll pull it up right now while you're talking. So watch it.
This is one of those spots where I thought this horse ran really well, but it was kind of like veiled a little bit, because the horse was 43-1 on the board first time out. Didn't break very well, didn't have a ton of room, was never able to really get his legs stretched till later in the race. Now we get second time out. Van Dyke, not my favorite person in the world from a jockey perspective, but still rides that turf course fairly well at Del Mar. This is a Kitten's Joy that went for $95,000. Kitten's Joy, you generally get better here second start. I realize we're grasping a little bit of straws here, but at 15-1, especially with the debut trouble, I'm willing to take a shot here with the 3 horse, so I think should get a much better trip from this post.
I'm watching it now in the turn and the stretch. I think this horse should improve. There was improvement about midway through that race. You could see it and through the turn. Yeah, I wouldn't hate it there. I would like it better if we were getting Bravo on this horse instead of Bravo on the 2. I think if Bravo was on the 3, I might have actually used, or at least really considered. But that was interesting. I think the 3 looks like a horse with plenty of talent. It'll get there. I don't know if we're quite there. It might need one more start before it's ready.
Well, let's make the argument here. Ransomware, turf sprinting last time. We don't really know if he's that good. You hate the 8. The 6 horse didn't run that well, although we both argue could improve. If they don't win it, this race is wide open, right? So why not the 3? Why not Stonks at 15-1?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a good point. Why not? It's, Van Dyke is, because his percentage isn't what it used to be because he's not with Baffert anymore. People, I think, almost dismiss him too much. He's a bit middle of the road. He's not terrible and he's not great, but he could win this race. I just ended up going too deep here. And now the more I look at this, the more I'm like, should I just throw the 8 on here just because? I mean, here's the stats, by the way. Flavien Prat riding first-time North American horses for Phil D'Amato. In the last 5 years, 20 starts, 8 wins, 14 in the money, 359 ROI.
Is that good? Are those good stats? I think those are okay. I'm guessing some of those were shitty horses coming over here that all of a sudden became really good, especially when they've never touched firm ground. We don't always know why they're coming over here. And one reason a lot of times you see horses come over is because they suck over soft turf. And then all of a sudden they get into California, they get into D'Amato's barn, you get a jockey like Pratt and they just pop. Yep, look at him. He's typing. We're getting an ad here. A late edition. Real quick before we jump off this race too, I was a little interested in the 4-horse Fleet Feet too. It's the other Papa Dormo. You got Hernandez up. Hasn't touched the turf yet. Nyquist, we talked about a little bit as a turf sire. Not wonderful. But this horse sold for $325,000 and debuted in the Best Pal. That tells you how much talent they think the 4 has. Getting 12-1 is not a terrible spot here if you're looking for a playable long shot.
Well, in first time, went 2 sprints to a route and showed speed in both the second sprint and then in the route on the dirt there. Fort Bragg, actually, those 3 races lost to Baffert horses. All 3 of those are Bafferts. It's interesting. The fact that Hernandez is picking up the mount catches the attention because he is, by my math, 5 for 7 riding for Papa Perjamo. Is that right? 71% from 7 mounts.
Yeah, 5 for 7. That's
Jesus.
good. Also good. Yeah.
All right.
It's an interesting race. Look, if there are prices that you can go to if you can get around a couple of the favorites here who definitely have question marks. That's why the more I look at this, it's like, hey, can I single and go crazy in the first and last leg and see if we can pop something big?
Sorry, I was doing the math there. I'm if you've watched the show before, magic and math are not great, but I just want to make sure I've got this right here because I am adding the 8 there at the end. I'm not lying about those stats, by the way. 8 for 20 in the last 5 years with North American first-time starters.
Pretty good.
1 second. That's going to do it for this episode of the Magic Mike Show. Thanks for joining Mike and I to preview Saturday's late pick 5 at Del Mar on Saturday, November 12th. Remember, opening day is Friday, November 11th. John Leans will be on the mic this weekend, so make sure you tune in. The Let It Ride Stakes is the feature Friday, and then the Betty Grable will be on Sunday. We'll have previews for that and the Aqueduct Stakes all up at racingdudes.com. The Artie Schiller was supposed to be Saturday, but I guess they're expecting a lot of rain in New York, so they moved that one to Sunday so it can hopefully stay on the turf. But and I hear Colson's awake there. Listen, we've got a big weekend coming up. CFL, the conference finals are this weekend. But if you want my picks for those, you got to tune in to Dudes Who Bet Daily. Mike, what time is it at?
Dudes Bet Daily, noon Eastern on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday, 11 a.m. start time. So we make those noon kickoffs on college football Saturdays as well. Best bets from the horse racing and sports world. Make sure you're checking it out. Up about $1,500 on the year off a $100 base bet, which we'll take any day of the week. Got a big game tonight. We got the Falcons coming into the Carolina Panthers. Expecting some rain and wind tonight in Carolina. So a game that flew over the total 2 weeks ago in Atlanta. I would lean toward the under, although it's gotten a little out of control. It was 43 at the start of the day, down to 41.5 right now. I would lean Atlanta, but if I was going to bet Atlanta, I would actually bet Atlanta to win the division. They are currently tied with the Buccaneers. You can get them plus 325 to win the division. The Bucs are minus 210. The Buccaneers play Seattle and London this week. If they lose that game, which I actually think they will, all of a sudden, all hell will break loose in Tampa. So if Atlanta wins this weekend and Seattle loses this weekend, you're going to see that plus 325 turn into minus 250 or so real quick because the Falcons also have an easier schedule coming home than Tampa does. So if you're going to bet the Falcons tonight, I'd recommend betting them to win the division because even if they lose, they could still win the division. So it's one of those situations where if they win, you're in a great spot. If they lose, your ticket's still live, which is a rare spot in sports, especially catching plus 325. You have to hold it for about a month and a half, which kind of sucks, but that would be the route if I'm taking a side. If you're talking about the best bet of the game, though, go hammer Cordell Patterson anytime touchdown. Plus 115 earlier today when I was giving it out. I'm not sure what it is right now, But if you go back, last week was his first game back in the Atlanta backfield, got 13 of the 35 carries, but got all 3 carries inside the 5, was on the field for every snap except 1 inside the 10. Clearly the red zone back. So if they get a pass interference at the 1, this is going to Cordell. If they get the ball inside the 5, he's going to get 2 or 3 shots getting into the end zone. He is a big boy. And guess what the Panthers suck at doing now? Stopping the run, especially in the red zone. Just ask Mixon, who was in there 5 times last week. So I've got some props there. I took any touchdown plus 115, 2 touchdowns is plus 400, sprinkled a little on 3 plus 2,200. So that's how I attacked the game tonight.
I just realized that we never gave out the tickets. It's been 2 weeks since we did the show. 2 weeks? 2 weeks. That's my excuse. It's been 2 weeks. Let's give out the ticket. Wow. Damn it. You can, as I'm screwing that up, our tickets are down below. So if you missed it while we're doing it, or if you just want to recap, here we go. For me, I'm going 268 with 158 with 45 with 689 with 168. It's a tidy little $81 ticket, Mr. Somich.
I'm going to go 258 with 1, 3, 8, 9, 10 with 4, 5, single up the 9, then 1, 3, 6, 8 to close it out. Cost you $60 for 50 cents.
Make sure if you didn't yet, go check out Blinkers Off. They were live earlier today, and they were talking about all the things they learned from the Breeders' Cup, including like 90% of the horses we saw. We're never going to see a race again. But that's the nature of the Breeders' Cup, especially when they hold it in Kentucky. But yeah, go check that out for all of their thoughts. And then again, like Mike had said earlier, Dudes Who Bet Sports every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday at noon Eastern, and then Saturdays at 11 Eastern. It's a lot of fun. Come join us. And we have fun in the chat too. So you can come in and tell us what your top sports picks are. And hey, if you do well enough in the chat, maybe we'll have you come on a show someday. Any final thoughts, Mr. Somich?
Yeah, let's answer this question real quick. Dave asked it earlier, random question. How do the dudes all know each other? Because I love this question, specifically coming off of Breeders' Cup weekend. So Aaron and Jared knew each other, I believe, from high school and then college, if that was correct.
High school, yeah. They were on the golf team together.
They really? I bet I could kick both their asses. So Jared and Aaron knew each other from high school. They got into it in about 2015. Magic and I randomly interacted with the podcast that they had, actually, the site. And Magic got really frustrated because they couldn't write for shit. There was a ton of errors. So he jumped in as editing things. I sent an email because I was so upset that Magic lost a rap battle. That's how I originally got involved in this thing. And then it just kind of all clicked together. And I mentioned this because, yeah, like Magic and I did not know each other at all when we started this podcast. Basically, we met once, I think, before in a hotel bar in California before we started doing this. But you look back, yeah, it sounds worse than it is there. You look back now, and like this weekend, we've got Dr. Tang sitting at the table with us, the Hoffmans hanging out with us, Ryan Notnick, we've met through horse racing and tournaments, having an absolute blast for 2 days. Like, that's one of the beauties of horse racing, is that when you meet people who are passionate about this, it is so much fun to be able to sit around and talk about the game with those people. And so it's really cool how you can build out that community and those good times and kind of create lifelong friends who you never would have met if it weren't for horse racing or tournament horse racing. So one of the reasons why I love live tournaments, one of the reasons why I think the dudes are kind of cool, is that we've all just kind of organically grown together in this.
Yeah, and there's other people in the chat that we've had the pleasure of meeting. Dr. Tang, we hung out with all weekend. Dennis, I haven't been able to meet Dennis, but I know we met a lot of the dudes in Kentucky before. Michael Olsen is always in the chat, and I know that one of these times we're going to be in the paddock. It's just whenever he's down there, I happen to be not at Santa Anita. Nick's been on a bunch of our streams before, so yeah. And there's a lot of you more too that we recognize all from the chat, or if we met, we had so many people come up and be like, "Oh, I love your content. I love your YouTube stuff." So that's great. Thank you so much. That's really the best thing that we can hear, is that we're being heard and people are appreciated and people are being entertained, because that's, we're having fun and, getting a little drunk and betting on the ponies. It's a fun time.
The next big one is NHC for us, where I think we'll have at least a full table. If you're going to go, shoot me a DM. If you're able to qualify for it, we can try and set up the table next to us. So we have a group of us that are all together there rooting on for each other, because that's an absolute blast. Magic already has a hall pass for that weekend. Halterman is now motivated to try and qualify for the NHC. So we'll see what ends up happening there. Nick, real quick, no pick on Tulsa, Memphis, but I do like Georgia State plus the 3.5. You still get the 3.5 today, because I do like that one. Because I think that's you got a better offense in that spot.
I was saying take the over. I was making the O face for take the over. Take this 61.5. Cheer for points. Cheer for zero defense. Just 11-on-2 out there all game. That's what you want.
Kathleen O has ruined my O cheers for a long time.
Boy, poor Kathleen O. Actually, you know what? While we're still on there, I'm going to check real quick. Has she is working back?
Yeah,
she's been working steadily.
She's supposed to be back late this year, early next year. So we're going to have a Kathleen O sighting here in the near future, just so we can all be let down again.
Dude, I just realized La Brea, 7 furlong standing to grade 1 La Brea Stakes. You tell me that horse is not going to win that race.
She'll be in Florida next. There's no chance she's not at Gulfstream first time out.
Oh, come on. Go to a grade 1 La Brea.
Why do you think she's a grade 1 horse right now?
Have you seen the California dirt horses? There's not a lot for her to have to beat out here.
Did you see her effort against the non-Florida dirt horses? Although that is fair. The California fillies, no bueno. Like they have not been good for years. We've been harping on that point. Again, that proved it with Malafat getting the job done in the Breeders' Cup as well. Like the fillies in California, they're a step below.
Yeah, it was the last good ones we had were Abel Tasman and then Midnight Bisou, but she got taken away and sent to Asmussen before she retired, so we can only count that. Anyway, thank you. All this to say, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate each and every one of you. Make sure if you haven't yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We had a lot of fun over the Breeders' Cup with a lot of content, and we've got some more stuff planned out for building up for the Derby prep season. It's really not that far away to get started about that. So subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit like on the video. Make sure you check out Blinkers Off and all the great programs we have. And until next time, I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
Have a good weekend, everybody. See you next time.
The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.